Russia is assessing the situation after a Ukrainian drone destroyed a Russian Mi-28N helicopter in the Donetsk explosion, sending shockwaves throughout the battlefield. We will examine the implications of this for the Ukrainian war today. A Russian Mi-28N helicopter was shot down by a Ukrainian drone and crashed close to the village of Kotarivka in Russian-held Donetsk Oblast, according to a recent report from Ukraine's military. Kotarivka is located at the border between Russian and Ukrainian land, around 20 kilometers from Mahilza. The strike was seen as the outcome of Ukraine's drone forces' concerted operational and intelligence operations. Let's examine the kind of helicopter that this was for Russia and its implications for the skies over Ukraine. A formidable Russian attack helicopter built for extensive service in combat is the Mi-28N. The Russian military frequently uses it as a workhorse, particularly in intense battle. It is designed for the exact kind of warfare situations where it targets soldiers, armored vehicles, and other high-value assets. It is heavily armed and armored. Each of these helicopters is extremely expensive and a vital component of the Russian military. This is noteworthy because this pricey Russian assault chopper was destroyed by a low-cost Ukrainian drone. Although Ukraine has done this before, this is one of the rare times that the same strategies were used to shoot down a Mi-28 helicopter over Russia's Kursk explosion. These days, it costs tens of thousands of dollars to build or purchase a military drone. That is far less expensive than a helicopter that costs millions of dollars. Ukraine can impose losses that are economically severe for Russia due to the large differential in production costs. Small in size, these drones typically fly lower to evade radar detection. Because of this, they are challenging for conventional air defenses to identify. They have a stealth edge over piloted aircraft because of their tiny radar or infrared signature. First-person view, FPV drones, can be precisely aimed at exposed or weak areas of a helicopter. The Ukrainian military has been using this strategy for a while now, heavily depending on Western assistance, especially that from the U.S. Russian pilots' ability to maneuver and support their forces from the air is limited if they are aware that regular flights could be targeted by Ukrainian drone attacks. It depletes Russian air superiority, discourages initiative, and compels more conservative action. The assertion by the Ukrainian military that this hit was supported by coordinated information demonstrates how, with significant help from Western friends, they are combining drone operations with human surveillance. However, the fact that Ukraine has shown that they can use their drones to destroy costly, hardened Russian assets somewhat tilts the playing field in their favor. For this reason, following years of impasse and lost territory, the focus has finally switched to Ukraine. Replacement, repair, or spare parts are needed for every downed helicopter or damaged air asset. While crushing sanctions are in place, it is extremely difficult for Putin and the Russian military to resupply. And it's one of the reasons why some analysts think Putin would be pushed into a precarious situation where he might be open to negotiating a conflict ending each time Ukraine earns a high-profile victory. Russian myths of invincibility are challenged and Ukrainian morale is raised. It implies that Putin needs to reconsider his actions. Helicopters are frequently used in quick reaction units, command and control platforms, aerial observation, and reconnaissance. Russia's situational awareness and reaction on disputed fronts are weakened. If they are lost or restricted, this achievement could now motivate Ukraine to expand its FPV drone program and make investments in swarm tactics, defense suppression applications, and increased payload capacity. Russia will therefore have to make quick investments in counter-drone technology, which might take resources and time away from other areas. Drones, electronic warfare, cyber satellites, precision missiles, artificial intelligence, and other contemporary weapons have already been referred to as being tested in the conflict in Ukraine. That story includes this FPV strike. This calls on the U.S. and NATO to step up its efforts in counter-drone technology and advanced unmanned systems. In order to stretch its already overburdened military-industrial base, Russia must now devote additional funds to counterintelligence, anti-drone measures, and stronger air defenses for its aviation assets. To put it another way, Ukraine makes Russia fight on several fronts, including cyber, air, ground, and counter-drone. The front line in Donetsk and the surrounding areas is still disputed territorially. Ukraine may be able to move more freely on the ground if it can progressively suppress Russian air support. When paired with information, drones, missiles, and artillery from the west, the decline of Russian aviation superiority might open the door to counterattacks, limited breakthroughs, or even encirclement. Russia will attempt to portray these attacks as exaggerated or sabotage. Such narratives, however, can be used by Ukraine and its allies to sway international opinion, uphold morale at home, and strengthen the argument for ongoing foreign assistance. Every accomplishment advances that narrative for the U.S. The funds and assistance provided to Ukraine are not being squandered, and they are having an impact on the battlefield. Naturally, Russia will work to implement superior point defense systems, electronic warfare, jamming, decoy and escort drones, better radar, better air defense systems, and possibly a greater dependence on missile and rocket delivery rather than helicopters in high-risk areas. The competition turns into a game of cat and mouse involving stealth, anti-drone defenses, and reconnaissance. A single downed helicopter is a win, but for there to be any true strategic impact, it must be a part of a longer pattern of attrition. Russia has tens or possibly hundreds of attack helicopters, and the war will be determined by the sum of these victories rather than individual ones. To eliminate or lessen the FPV threat, Russia is probably going to strengthen up its efforts in anti-drone systems and signals intelligence. Russia might adjust if Ukraine becomes too predictable. In transit, FPV drones themselves may be lost, jammed, or destroyed. Effectiveness may be diminished by weather, interference, or countermeasures. They aren't unbeatable. It will need production, logistics, competent pilots, maintenance, sensor packages, and information integration to scale this strategy effectively across numerous front lines. Ukraine's financial and industrial resources are being strained. Russia may retaliate more forcefully by launching more assaults against drone manufacture, launching more severe counterattacks against Ukrainian infrastructure, or even extending the war. The stakes are still getting higher. Ultimately, the Ukrainian FPV drone's destruction of a Russian Mi-28N helicopter is more than just another battlefield victory. It represents the way the conflict is developing and the forces influencing it. A guided drone that costs a fraction of that amount is said to have destroyed this multi-million-dollar aircraft, which was built for night fighting and was regarded as one of Moscow's top attack platforms. That contrast explains the direction of contemporary warfare and the need of Ukraine's adaptation. Future developments are more important than the drone that shot down the first helicopter. Can Ukraine do this on a large scale? Will Russia rush to change its deployments or revamp its defenses? Will President Trump be able to persuade Putin to engage in dialogue? Occasionally, it begins with a single mission or a single military helicopter being destroyed. Furthermore, if scaled, it might cause issues for Vladimir Putin and the Russian people as a whole.